We're set.
Okay, very good. Okay, good morning, everybody. I will call the meeting to order. I will do a roll call of the board members. Director Perotti,
Present.
Director McQuarrie,
Here.
Director Weinberg,
Here.
Director Rodriguez,
Here.
Director Sheeler,
Present.
Vice Chair Tabor,
Here.
and Chair Davis is here. So all board members are present and accounted for. That would take us then to the report regarding the posting of the agenda. Christina?
The agenda was posted on Friday, October 2nd at MTD's administrative office, mailed and emailed to those on the agenda list, and posted on MTD's website.
Good, thank you very much. We'll go to the consent calendar. There are two items. Item 4 is the approval of the prior minutes for the meeting of September 15th, 2020. Item 5 is a cash report for the period September 6th through September 18th, 2020. Are there any questions on the item 4 or 5, the minutes or the cash report?
Well, I can't see my Margaret Kisser on the chart on the right. So somehow I've disappeared.
Yeah, your audio is still there, Dick, so you're good for audio, and we'll have somebody there. You're coming back up. There you are. You're back.
I have a question.
Oh yeah, now I see me.
Great, okay. Ms. Rodriguez, Olivia.
On the certificate of deposits that we're getting a 2% rate. How long is that? How long did we lock up that CD, or what's the maturity? What's the time frame on that?
The maturity is February 28th, 2021.
Right, I'm sorry, but is that a 6-month, a 1-year, a 18-month CD? How long do we keep it locked up?
I'd have to talk to our financial officer, Brad Davis. I don't recall if that was a 6-month or 9-month CD. It varies depending on the timing. I just don't recall what it was when we went out with that one.
Okay, because I mean, I think it's like a great rate. Everything is like 0.0607 right now. It's ridiculous. All right, I just wondered what the time frame was. Thank you.
Good question.
Chair Davis,
Yes, please go ahead, Paul.
I need to abstain from the minutes. I wasn't here at the last meeting.
Okay, so noted. Any other questions or comments at this point? If not, is there a motion?
Mr. Chair, make a motion to approve the consent calendar.
Okay, we have a motion to approve the consent calendar. Is there a second?
Second.
Director Rodriguez did the second. I will do a roll call. And again, Paula, please note the two different votes that you will make on this particular one. Director
Thank you.
Perotti,
Abstention.
abstention on the minutes, approval on the cash report. Yes, she shook her head. Yes, I got that in the record. Director McQuarrie,
Yes.
Director Weinberg,
Yes.
Director Rodriguez,
Yes.
Director Sheeler,
Yes.
Vice Chair Tabor.
Yes.
Chair Davis votes yes also. So that would be 6-1 on the minute, with 6 with 1 abstention on the minutes and 7-0 on the cash report. Good, thank you very much on that. That takes us then to the public comment, item 6. Madam Clerk, is there anyone who wishes to speak on items not on the agenda today?
We have no public comments at this time.
Okay, not hearing any public comments, so we'll move right into our first business item. Item 7, this is the California Energy Commission blueprints for medium and heavy duty zero emission vehicle infrastructure grant solicitation update. This is an informational item, and I'll turn it over to General Manager Estrada at this point.
Morning, Chair Davis, members of the board. I'll be handing this off to our capital projects manager, Ryan Grip, and our planning and marketing manager, Hillary Blackerby, to walk you through this. But first, I just wanted to share with you, this is a solicitation that MTD is aggressively pursuing. We have partnered with CalSTART and the city of Santa Barbara. Staff will go through the details on that. But this is consistent with MTD's overall strategic plan and the goal that the board has set to meet zero emission 100% zero emission buses by 2030. So with that, I'm going to hand off to Mr. Grip to walk you through this particular opportunity. Ryan?
Thank you, General Manager Estrada. Members of the board, good morning. Thank you. Next slide, please. So jumping into it, I want to provide a little bit of background. The focus of this particular grant solicitation is Terminal 1 here off of Olive Street. And I wanted to walk the board through, and members of the community that are joining us today, some of the prior charging infrastructure projects that MTD has engaged in, which kind of sets the tone for why we are pursuing this particular grant funding opportunity. So this particular slide gives an overview of Terminal 1 and the particular projects that have either been completed or are in process. Next slide, please. So starting off with our first major charging infrastructure project within the past 5 or so years was the BYD charging infrastructure project. So what you can see here is an overhead view of our electric vehicle charging canopy. That's South Sepuetas, and then that's Haley Street where the cursor was pointing. Within that area, we have 15 480 volt proprietary BYD chargers for our 14 BYD buses. We took the 208 volt chargers that were installed to provide power to the electric shuttle fleet. We converted those, we upgraded some of the existing switch gear, and that provided us with the electrical infrastructure to charge that particular subfleet. Next slide, please. The next project that we engaged in was focused on the light duty fleet. This was through SCE's Charge Ready program, and we were able to install 14 light duty charge ports for the 10 Chevrolet Bolts that we procured. That's adjacent to the admin building to give everybody a sense of where we're located here. SCE is a part of that project, also installed a new pole-mounted transformer right there off of Olive Street to supply the power necessary for that particular charging infrastructure project. Next slide, please. And finally, this is a project that is in process. This was at the last board meeting. Members of the board had approved staff to move forward with executing an agreement with SCE under the Charge Ready program for the installation of 14 heavy duty charge ports. Some of the notable components, of this particular project is that we will be installing a new pad mounted transformer to supply the additional electricity or energy needed for those particular chargers. So this one is in progress. Next slide, please. Oh.
Just a comment, if you're moving a cursor or anything around, I'm not getting it.
Fair enough. Thank you.
Yeah,
Question?
Ryan, just for the viewer, the cursor is very, very small. So yeah, again, verbal description probably would be best.
Perfect.
Question?
Thank you.
Go ahead.
Question?
Go ahead, Bill.
Oh, thank you, Chair. Mr. Grip, is this the same rooftop that the solar is being projected for?
That's exactly right. Yes. So if we go back one slide, if we could please, Hillary. This particular rooftop, this was the new canopy that we put onto what was an existing canopy, and we upgraded it. We did seismic retrofits, new roofing, and a raised canopy to support maintenance of battery electric buses, since batteries are typically on the top of the buses, as well as other places of the bus. And so this reflects that particular canopy and an area that we intend to go ahead and install photovoltaics. Next slide, please. So that kind of sets up the background for why we're pursuing this particular grant funding opportunity. So some general details about the grant. This is a California Energy Commission grant. It is a planning grant. So if awarded, There will not be any implementation that will take place other than the actual creation of the plan. Any infrastructure that will be installed as a result of the plan will take place at a time outside of this particular funding opportunity. The maximum grant award available is $200,000. We will be submitting our application by the November 13th deadline, and the CEC is anticipating notice of award around December 2020. It's important to note that whatever their staff recommendations have in terms of the award, that does have to go through the board, the CEC board. Next slide, please. So what is our proposed project?
Just
Yes,
one quick question.
Yes.
Total amount, the $3 million, and we're applying for the $200,000.
Correct.
Is there anything within the grant relative to the awards themselves in terms of a maximum award per recipient?
That would be the 200,000 is the maximum award per
Okay.
recipient.
Good. That's what I needed to know. That's perfect. Thank you.
Not a problem. So the proposed project that we're looking at under this grant funding opportunity is a plan to develop a microgrid here at Terminal 1. Below is a general definition for what a microgrid is. So self-sufficient energy system that serves a discrete geographic footprint. And I think that that's really the point to emphasize. So we're talking about a small locale with its own energy generation capabilities. Next slide, please. So why install a microgrid? What are the primary benefits? Well, really for MTD, it's the grid independence piece. And what ties into that is resiliency. So as we talked about in the background, we've engaged in some pretty major charging infrastructure projects. And we have one in the pipeline with the 14 heavy-duty charge ports. The challenge that MTD is going to have in the transition to fleet electrification is ensuring that we can 100% count on the electricity that we're drawing from. Right now, we're drawing from the grid. What the microgrid project allows us to do is have some level of independence from the grid or backup to the grid to ensure that we kind of have this safeguard so that we can make rollout on a daily basis. Another advantage to installing a microgrid is energy savings. Depending on what level of dependency after we install a microgrid we have on the existing utility grid, there are opportunities for energy savings through mechanisms like peak shaving and reducing the facility's demand. At any single given time, the amount of energy we draw from the utility, there is a demand charge associated with that in the future. Right now, that demand charge has been suspended by SCE to encourage transportation electrification, but it will roll back in, and microgrids are a mechanism to help to lower those costs. And then the other component is sustainability. So if your microgrid, if you're using renewable energy generation, then that obviously makes for a very green energy production. Now the California grid, particularly SCE, they are purchasing a lot of renewable electricity as it is. So California has a fairly green grid. However, implementing our own microgrid here at Terminal 1 using renewable electricity generation improves it that much more. Next slide, please. So what are the primary components of a microgrid? The distributed energy resources are really kind of the technology pieces behind a microgrid, and you put those pieces together and that's what establishes your microgrid. So examples of distributed energy resources are things like photovoltaic systems, fuel cells, small wind power systems, battery storage, generators, and these can all be combined to generate electricity in any manner that makes sense for that particular locale. So there are different demonstration projects that are taking place. What we're seeing though is there is an emergence in the use of the battery storage piece. So it's no longer just about creating electricity, generating electricity. It's also about storing that electricity. And that's something that we intend to pursue with MTD's microgrid here at Terminal 1. Next slide, please. So project implementation, the initial phase will be a needs assessment. So the planning team will come to Terminal 1, take a look at the space constraints that we have, which is one of the elements that we're going to have to work with here at Terminal 1 because we don't have a lot of space, and make determinations of where the equipment is going to go, how much equipment, what are MTD's resiliency goals? Do we want to be partially independent from the grid, or do we want to be fully independent from the grid? Will the grid be there to, or will the microgrid be there to supplement the existing power that we generate from the utility, or do we want to fully generate our own power? And then that site analysis piece, as I mentioned, to kind of take a look at type, size, and quantity of the distributed energy resources we plan to deploy here at Terminal 1. And then engaging in the actual plan development. And a key piece of the plan development will be the economics of a microgrid. So what are the costs going to be for MTD? What are the savings going to be for MTD? It's heavily capital intensive in terms of these pieces of equipment. And then you have the operating expenses. What are the ongoing maintenance and operating expenses that are associated with having this equipment on site? Do we need to have a specialist to be able to monitor this equipment? These are all conversations that will take place through plan development. And as we mentioned before, the utility energy cost savings through things like peak shaving, we'll be able to project that by saying, this is the number of battery electric buses that we're going to have. This is the level of draw. And as a result of that, here's what we can do with this distributed energy equipment that we plan to procure. And a key piece for the CEC, and it's just important, I think, in the industry is replicability. So what we intend to do is write the plan in a manner that other agencies can pick it up and they can kind of adapt our plan to implement their own microgrid strategy, which is really important as more and more fleets are moving towards transportation electrification. Next slide, please. So the grant partnerships, as General Manager Estrada mentioned, we are partnering with the City of Santa Barbara. We are very excited about this partnership. We work closely with them anyway. They are engaging in so many important kind of climate change initiatives, curbing carbon emissions within the city and beyond. So this is what we see as kind of the first of many collaborations with the city, as well as CalSTART. And CalSTART, MTD has worked with CalSTART in the past. They are a leading clean transportation technology solutions consortia. They are well thought of in the industry. They have a lot of resources that they can bring to bear to help support us in this initiative to develop the microgrid plan. And with that, I'll go ahead and pass it along to Hillary.
All right. Good morning, Chair and Board.
Good morning, Hillary.
So Ryan's done the lion's share, but I'm going to talk a little bit about, this is something that Director Sheeler brought up at our last meeting, and that's some of the local clean energy initiatives that are going on in our region, in our service territory. And the biggest is community choice energy. And so we sort of have two. They're not competing with each other, but they're happening in our service territory. And the first one is Central Coast Community Energy. And just briefly, some people are on our board are very well aware of what community choice energy is, but just to review, it's something that the legislature enacted several years ago at this point, and they've been popping up over the state. But it essentially allows something like a joint powers authority. Some of them have Some of them have slightly different structures, but for local governments to be more involved in the procurement of energy, specifically and ideally clean energy, renewables. In our area, SoCal Edison, still they own the poles and the wires, but the Community Choice Energy Agency is responsible for procuring the energy. And so that way they can decide what their mix is and decide where it comes from. That can include and will include investment in local generation of renewable energy. And so it's just sort of more local control. So for several of the jurisdictions in our territory, so City of Goleta, City of Carpinteria, and the County of Santa Barbara, they voted to join what was recently, until a few weeks ago, called Monterey Bay Clean Power, which is a joint powers authority that has a bunch of sort of northern central coast entities as part of it, up in the counties north of us. But Goleta, Carpinteria, the county, also City of Guadalupe, City of Santa Maria, and I believe Solvang, they've also voted to join. So they are now on the board. They have representatives on the board of that JPA. And I believe starting in January, if you live in one of those jurisdictions, and of course, North County is on PG&E, but for our purposes in South County, if you're currently an Edison customer, when that switches over to Central Coast Community Energy, you will start getting your bills and interacting with and become a customer of this not-for-profit public agency, and that's who you'll interact with. Now, Edison is still going to, deal with the transmission and all that, and they get a cut, certainly, to maintain that infrastructure. But there will be choices and levels about what percentage renewable energy you want for what you're using, and you can pay a little more to get 100% renewable, and it just depends. So there's going to be a lot of information out there about what it all means. You're naturally opted in, but you can opt down or opt out and just say, I just want to keep it like it was with Edison, have Edison be the procurer of the energy that I use, but people get to decide. If you live in the city of Santa Barbara, they've decided to go their own way, and it provides a little more flexibility when you're your own entity and not a joint powers authority dealing with a bunch of other interests from different regions. It's a little bit simpler. And so their entity is going to be called Santa Barbara Clean Energy. Over here on the right of this slide, this is the little image that describes some of this. So like I said before, procurement, not polls. That's what they're responsible for. And then you'll have different options. The great thing, we're a customer, obviously, and for Terminal 1, we'll be a customer of Santa Barbara Clean Energy, which is slated to start in May of 2021. But as you know, we also have Terminal 2, which is in the city of Goleta. And so we will eventually be customers of both. And the great thing about it is they're going to be looking for partners and places to procure energy, put more renewables on the grid, and have more projects to invest in. And so, they don't have shareholders like Edison does. And so they get to put a lot more into actual renewable generation. So all the things, all the planning that MTD's been doing, and will continue to do, and if we get this grant, we'll go a long way to do. There will be a lot of opportunities for MTD to partner, be a site for that renewable generation and to run on a cleaner mix of energy. So that's what I have on that. And that was our last slide. And Ryan and I are happy to take any questions.
Great, nice presentation. Questions for either Ryan or Hillary at this point from the board? Bill, please go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. And if you'll please indulge me, I have a few questions on this. Not necessarily sequentially, but going along with the staff report, I first wanted to say that our participation in this project as we build this out, hopefully completely, is consistent with all the climate action plans in MTD's service area. So hopefully that helps our partners to join us or support us when we ask for their support. Okay, my first question has to do with the microgrid. Are charged buses part of the microgrid?
Charging buses, absolutely. That is a major aspect of the microgrid, is to allow for whether it be kind of a direct distribution from photovoltaics or into some kind of battery storage, and then pulling from the battery storage. That will be a major component of the microgrid project, is providing the power necessary for those vehicles.
Can the batteries and the vehicles be used as part of the microgrid?
That's interesting, like a kind of a V to G, a vehicle to grid situation where you're discharging what you have, the battery, the energy in the batteries of the vehicles back to the grid. That'll be something that we'll be exploring during the initial phase of plan development. It probably won't be a major component of our project simply because that particular technology is so new, but will certainly be something that we'll be exploring.
Okay, thank you. I guess the next one I'll just go to quickly is we're asking for energy storage solutions at Terminal 1. At what point do we talk about Terminal 2? This isn't piecemeal planning, is it? Or we're just biting off what we can chew right now?
Well, initially our focus has been on Terminal 1 in terms of the infrastructure. Our goal is to kind of initially reopen Terminal 2 to make it usable for our fleet. The next phase will then be to look at how we can bring in the electricity needed and the infrastructure needed to support charging of electric vehicles. So to your point, our primary focus has been Terminal 1, simply because that's been the rollout of the electric vehicle charging infrastructure that we have. But certainly after that initial phase of reopening Terminal 2, we'll then dedicate our focus and resources to that secondary site.
And if I could add to that, something else that Ryan's been working on and planning's been assisting with is kind of working on our zero emission bus modeling and how that works with the way that we structure our blocks and runs and our service. And one thing that we're looking at in planning is, both for interim operations when we're able to move a little bit of our fleet out to Terminal 2 in Goleta, but also looking forward of what that means for range when we have both, cutting down on deadhead majorly and thereby saving fuel. And then when we're actually able to have a fully, electric facility out there and able to charge buses, and we have enough buses that are battery electric, what that looks like for our service. So that's something we're definitely looking at on the planning side and sort of on the vehicle procurement side, I would say. So we're definitely looking at the broader picture, but for right now, for this specific thing, we're focused on T1.
Okay, thank you for that. The next one is from the next paragraph in the staff report, and it talks about energy arbitrage. Is it possible for MTD to work with Southern California Edison to negotiate or determine what our off-peak time would be, something that would be more advantageous or favorable for what we need to do?
Unfortunately, with SCE as large as they are and with as many customers that are transitioning their fleets to electrified vehicles, I don't know if that would be as a one-on-one from a customer to the provider, if we would be able to negotiate special rates. However, what I will say about SCE at large is they've really embraced transportation electrification. I think it's good for their business, and they seem to really believe in the meaning behind it. So what we're seeing is that there are a lot of incentives for ratepayers that are converting their fleets. And I'll give you an example. The electric vehicle charging infrastructure that we have currently is under a special EV rate. So they are, that charging infrastructure is metered independently. And as a result of that, SCE provides favorable rate structures for the charging of our electric vehicles that's different than, let's say, our facilities, than the admin building, for example. And then with the elimination of demand charges for a 5-year period of time, that was another kind of an incentive to bring people into the fold of transportation electrification and adoption of those technologies. So on a broad basis, they're doing that. I have had many conversations with our kind of team that we work with at SCE, and I don't see them working out deals independently, particularly because rates go through the CPUC. But I think at large, they're really attempting to incentivize those that are early adopters of transportation electrification and hopefully hold to some of those rate structures long term.
Well, I guess maybe that might be an advantage of being an early adopter. So thank you for that. The next paragraph talks about with the plan that hopefully we get funding for, other entities and organizations might be able to use it as a guide as well. And I don't know, you may want to speak to Mayor Perotti, but I believe Goleta just recently put together or received from their consultant a plan on photovoltaics, battery storage, and microgrid possibilities, options at their city hall.
Excellent.
Next thing I wanted to bring up was the Central Coast Community Energy, C3 Energy. They've just recently put together an advisory board, and there's actually 2 representatives on that advisory board from our service area. And you may recall Miss Katie Davis from the Sierra Club, who was instrumental in bringing forward us bringing forward a resolution to electrify our fleet by 2030. She is one of the representatives on this advisory board. So that might be a good person to speak with directly, because my understanding is C3 is very supportive of what MTD might be trying to do. And we could be like one of the first out of the chute for them to help prove their value here where we live. Okay, the next one, you've talked about the city of Santa Barbara and their 100% renewable energy goal by 2030 and the partnership that is being enjoined here and the kind of incentives. I'm not sure exactly what those incentives Santa Barbara will be providing. Is there any reduction in permit costs and processing time? The reason that I'm asking is that I just continue to think about the difficulties MTD has had with the city of Santa Barbara regarding the transit center, and just wondering what they'll actually be able to accomplish that would be mutually beneficial.
I can take that question. If
I'm
you'd
sorry.
like.
Yeah, please, Jerry.
Yeah, I think our partnership with the city has been pretty favorable. They've always worked with us. We've had our challenges at times. When you're doing a major construction project, that's going to happen. In this particular case, as a planning grant, it's really the outreach that we're going to need to do, because this solicitation is asking for more than just microgrid projects. It's asking for something that's a little bit broader. And that partnership with the city and what they bring to the table and the outreach that they're going to be doing as a part of their initiative is going to be a critical component of this grant solicitation.
Thank you for bearing with me. That's all of my questions at this time.
Great.
If I could add a little piece, I meant to mention it when I was on my slide earlier, but the city of Santa Barbara has, of course, a climate action plan, but also a recently developed strategic energy plan. They're also putting together an energy assurance plan. And so the things that they're looking at as a municipality with regards to renewables, carbon neutrality, and resiliency, right? Obviously, that's so major for our operations, but for the region in general, those are all things that they're going to be doing outreach about. And this piece, if funded, will be folding our outreach about our specific project in with that so that it really nests well together and we can talk about it as a broader project with the community. So it's something that makes a lot of sense, especially for outreach. We were thinking about, if we just did outreach just on our little microgrid blueprint, are people gonna engage? Is that interesting? Does anyone care on that on its own? But if it's as a broader picture to really show how we fit into all the components, I think it'll be more impactful.
Hillary, on that point, there are, as Bill noted, there are a number of efforts going on to look at microgrid development. So, and they're all coming out of the ground about the same time. So there is going to be a great degree of synergy which happens in that regard. So that's a really good point. I was going to ask the question relative to the CCEs, either Central Coast Community Energy or the Santa Barbara Clean Energy. One of their goals also will be to help fund local development of renewable energy. Again, maybe not right out of the chute because of the financial constraints, but ultimately, basically, I think one of the goals there is to use local dollars to make local development to create local renewable energy. I don't know if there's been any discussions with Alalia, the city, or other people relative to the future of the types of projects we might be looking at. And this is probably premature. I'm just curious whether the potential for infrastructure funding has been part of any of the discussion.
There has been certainly, and it's all vague now, right? Because no one's, they don't have ratepayer dollars at this point or setting up how that's working, but both with the city of Santa Barbara, and I recently connected with someone who works at C3E to talk about what we're doing, right? Because while they were about to represent our area, they're pretty far removed from what's going on here. And so they were very interested in our electrification of our fleet and our experience in that. So they mentioned that that's something that they're really interested in participating in as they get going. So I think they need us and we need them. And so it'll be a good partnership with both entities.
Thank you. Other questions for staff at this point? I can't see everybody, so you may have to speak up.
Chair Davis?
Yes, go ahead, Paula. Thank you.
Thank you. I just want to say this is exciting stuff moving forward. And you're so correct, Chair Davis, that there are a lot of us that are out there just on the cutting edge of getting started. I know schools are looking into it. I know the city of Goleta, we've had our first meeting about solar and storage, and I know it's going to be coming back to us again because it's going to be going to the Green Issues and Energy and Green Issues Committee first. I think where we got a little we're confused on storage and cost and different. We asked for more information, and that'll be going to the committee and coming back again. But yes, it's exciting stuff. We're moving forward on it. I'm curious to how competitive is this particular grant?
Yeah, good question. Ryan, Jerry, Hillary?
Yeah, from what we've heard so far, we think it will be rather competitive. We think in our region, we may be one of two. We're not certain of that yet. And I think if that's the case, especially if we're the only one, our chances will increase. And I think the partnership with CalSTART and what they're bringing to the table with the grant writing experience as well is going to be critical for us.
Great, thank you.
I like the partnerships. I think that's going to help a lot. What's the application date again? It's coming up pretty quick.
I believe it's November 13th is the due date.
Yes.
Yes, it is November 13th.
Okay, and if when's the award, and if awarded, what's our general thought in terms of the length of the planning time?
About 1 year from
1 year,
time
okay.
of award announcement.
Okay, great.
Chair Davis?
Go ahead.
I was also wondering, along with Board Member Sheeler, about the Terminal 2 applicability, and I'm wondering if we're thinking the replicability aspect of the project. Would that be something that we could turn over and look at Terminal 2 about?
You know, our focus has primarily been Terminal 1 just because of the infrastructure in terms of modeling, in terms of kind of focusing really on what our needs are. It's easier right now to do that at Terminal 1. You know, I fully agree, though. Terminal 2 is on our radar, particularly with SCE's charge ready monies. You know, we want to take advantage of that program as much as possible so that we can deploy the electric vehicle charging infrastructure. SCE has been out to perform a site analysis at Terminal 2. You know, there is available energy out on the street to be able to tap into and pull from. But we so far have really, like I said, kind of concentrated resources here at Terminal 1 because this is where we're operating most of our electric vehicles from, or all currently. And after we do that initial phase of bringing kind of it back to life, it being Terminal 2, then we're really going to concentrate on how we can bring in the electric vehicle charging infrastructure to that particular site so that we can deploy electric vehicles from Goleta.
Okay. Hillary or somebody, could we take down the screen so I can see everybody? So when they talk, I can recognize them. There you go. Thank you. So we're still in questions and comments from the board. Any other questions at this point? Okay, then I'm going to ask the clerk, is there any public comment on this item?
There are no public comments.
Okay, very good. Okay, this is an informational item only. Jerry or Ryan, any final closing comments, or Hillary?
No, just like to thank staff for their work, and hopefully we'll have a great outcome.
Absolutely, really exciting. Really look forward to getting this award because again, I think we will be competitive in that regard. So that's a really nice work, everybody. Okay, closing that item takes us on to item 8. This is the Transit Center renovations update. This also is an informational item. Jerry?
Yes, Chair Davis, I'll be handing this off to Mr. Moss, who will be providing you with an update on the Transit Center renovation project. He took over from Mr. Grip as project manager about midway through, and he's got a lot of good news for you. So Steve, it's all yours.
Thank you, General Manager. Good morning, Chair Davis and members of the board.
Good morning, Steve.
Nice to see you all, so to speak, virtually. So would we do the next slide, please? So this picture shows just before the start of demolition. The Transit Center, as you may know, was constructed in 1973. So it's, you know, approaching 50 years old, and it was well overdue for a major renovation. And that's what we did. We undertook it. We contracted with Lenvik and Minor, or LMA, to carry out design and construction management. And the board approved Newton Construction and Management, or Newton, as I'll call them, as the general contractor. And so LMA developed project specifications and plans with a lot of input, of course, from MTD staff, and especially with Ryan's working on that diligently for many months while that was underway. And of course, LMA had several sub-consultants for technical expertise working with them as well. So this picture shows the temporary facilities that were set up just next to the Transit Center. They were in use from when they were installed until just recently when staff reoccupied the facility about a month ago. Next slide, please. So these two pictures show you on the upper left a picture of a section of the boarding area and the driveway prior to demolition. As you can see, it's very beat up and well worn, and the entire area looked like that all the way around the building. So it was well in need of a renovation. This is the lower picture shows that area just after demolition, when, as you can see, the entire driveway and the entire boarding area were removed and replaced. So next slide, please. This is a picture of the same area just recently following the reoccupation of the circle with our buses. The concrete that was used is a heavier duty concrete than the older one was, so it will hold up. We expect it to hold up for a very long time. The boarding area is all nice. It's got a reflective edge strip along the edge as a warning to people, that they don't step off accidentally. And we think it's going to work real well. You can see also in this picture, all the exterior windows were all replaced. You can see some of them in this picture. Next slide, please. So in front of the facility on Chapala Street, it was that area that you see that's been torn up there. That was all asphalt, and it was very cracked and broken. And the original plan was we were going to just replace that asphalt with new asphalt, which would have been nice at the time, but wouldn't have held up as long as what finally happened was we worked with the city and with the contractor and with Lash, who does street work for the city, and reached a partnership where the city paid for the cost of the concrete pour, and we paid for the pre and post pour work. And we got a very nice new concrete bus pad all along the frontage of the transit center, which will hold up for, again, like with the driveways, will hold up for a long time, and is a much big improvement over the asphalt that was there previously. So we were just, had a real good relationship with the city there, and we were happy to come to that agreement. Next slide, please. This is a couple pictures showing the installation of the new roof, which is beautiful, if some of you may have seen it. The fascia as well, in the lower picture you can see was done with metal this time, with copper. The previous one wasn't, it was wood there and had gotten very damaged over the years. So we went with all metal this time, and we think it's just really did a good job on that. So we're very happy with that. Next slide, please. The old control room, or fishbowl as it was sometimes called, was really outdated, wasn't big enough for the uses that it needed, and it wasn't efficiently arranged for really efficient use. So we did a new one. The lower picture shows it being under construction from outside. As you can see, it's a metal framework, metal studs and so on. If you could go to the next slide, you can see the new control room in use. This picture was taken just a couple of weeks ago. It's a beautiful facility. We did away with there used to be two doors, one on either side. We did away with the door on the left in this picture, which then opened up more space for the employees inside. And we also moved out the front of it just a few inches, but enough to make a difference so that there's just is roomier and more room for people to be able to work more efficiently inside of it. There's also a new employee break room behind down the hallway on the right side. That's really nice as well. And currently the building isn't open yet to the public, but when it will be, all the drivers and everyone else will have access to, all the employees will have access to that break room. You see on the right a little narrow door, it looks like a door. That is actually a fold-out screen that will be a backdrop with for the camera for mobility reduced fare ID cards. The cameras inside of the booth, and then that'll be a fold-out screen behind them to do away with glare from the windows and so on. Next slide, please. Just a picture showing the customer amenities that will be available once the building is open. The 2 TVMs, the bill changers, and a vending machine, just drink vending. Those are not currently operational, although they're all set up and just need to be turned on, but that won't happen until we open the building to the public. Next slide, please. So here's some more customer information. There are 4 of those real-time bus arrival monitors. They're all mounted inside, but 2 look in and 2 look out There's those two in that corner and the other two are on the opposite side. This is the back side and the other two are out near the Chapala entrance. And they list all the buses that come into the transit center and will tell you, how long before they get their real-time information. There are 2 audio bollards for those with a visual impairment, one inside and one outside. This one, the outside one is on the back side, and on the Chapala side, there's one indoors. You can't really, you can sort of see it in this picture behind the trash can on the far side. Next slide, please. There's 4 of these new light and camera poles, one in each corner, basically. They each have one of those heads is a light, the other one is a camera, actually multiple cameras. This one, you're looking at the exit from the city parking lot there and the new retention area that the city required for stormwater retention. And then that's Chapala Street on the right, of course. So those are really nice. They really light the area up much better than it was before. And we hope that'll help with the issues we've had with vandalism and so on. Next slide, please. Just a picture of the front entrance, the way it looks now. Very nice and new looking. Again, all new glass, all new doors. On the right side, you see the door to one of the driver restrooms. That one's ADA accessible. The other driver restroom is around that corner to the right on the other side of the concrete pillar, not shown in the picture. That's just, really nice. The entranceway now has the railings, as you can see, to keep people from, hopefully keep people from stepping off into the landscaped area on either side. Next slide, please. And finally, a couple pictures of the finished building. This one is from inside the parking lot, looking through. By the way, the fence that you see in the center of the lower part of the picture, that used to be our second entrance from the parking lot. There's also one on the backside, but the old one was not up to current ADA standards from this entrance, and we were not able to make it so with the slopes that would be required and so on. And so a decision was made to block it off and fence it off. And that will be the area where we will have the ability to set up a portable generator if needed when there's going to be a lengthy period of a power outage at any time. So that'll be a nice thing to have that we didn't have prior. You can see the new bike racks there along the outside of the fence. There's, I believe, a dozen of them. And then the area where there aren't any between the 2 trees, kind of, that will be, the city is in the process of doing a docking system with bikes that are rental bikes. And I believe that there's still the plan for the city to install some of those at that location. So that'll be nice for our passengers as well. Next slide, please. And here's a picture from across the street showing the building again finished. We reoccupied the building. The staff reoccupied the building on August 19th. And then buses began using the circle again on September 4th. As I said earlier, the public it's not currently allowed into the building. It's not open. Once we begin charging fares again is when we intend to open the building to the public, because the main reason for the public to need to get in there is to buy tickets. We did keep one of the portable restrooms that were installed along with the temporary facilities, so that the public does have a public restroom to be able to use. Next slide, please. This just shows the old sign on the left and the new sign on the right in the same location. It's kind of the finishing slide of my presentation. If there are any questions, Pablo, if you could go to the next slide, we'll leave Hillary's video playing with no sound in case there are questions. That shows kind of the same things I showed you in a video format. With that, I'd be happy to take any questions.
Great. Thank you very much for the presentation, Steve. Thank you for the great pictures and the video tour in that regard. I will just start before I ask for any comments. I just think the staff did an incredible job of the transition during construction, because I know how disruptive it must have been for everybody. And very frankly, everybody bared with it and made it happen. So again, great thanks to the entire staff for making the transition from the old building during construction to now. And we're not quite done, but we're heading there. So comments from the board, questions from the board.
Sure, Davis, if I could comment on that. If you read in the staff report, every employee pretty much at MTD had a major role in this. And
Yeah.
what I didn't mention in the staff report, one is our architect with LMA, Gowdy Mission. He was, in a sense, my lifeline. Me not being an expert in construction projects, I was very reliant on him to be the technical expert that I needed throughout the process. And of course, without General Manager Estrada, the project wouldn't have happened at all. And it would certainly be remiss to not thank Jerry for being the guiding force behind the whole thing.
Yeah, Jerry. Yeah, and Jerry, I think you would second my thanks to the city of Santa Barbara also in working out the problems that we did have, and also basically becoming our partner and making a lot of these things happen.
Yeah, absolutely, Chair Davis. Once we really got rolling, the city was great to work with on the transition. They've agreed to allow us to use some of the additional or temporary parking areas along Figueroa Street to help with during the pandemic, so we don't have to put everyone back in the circle. And as Mr. Moss mentioned, the partnership in the middle of the project to get the concrete laid in front of the transit center, which wasn't a part of the original plan, was, I think, a good example of how we can really get things done when we work together. And really impressed and appreciative of their efforts, but also again the staff, all of our employees, drivers, supervisors have been participating throughout in giving us input and comments, and it's all come together well. And I appreciate Ryan for getting this project started, and then Steve Moss for taking it from there and bringing it home for us as the project managers throughout.
Okay, board members, comments. Olivia, please.
Well, I want to commend you guys on the work. It's beautiful. Can hardly wait till we can go in there and the public, I'm sure. I'm glad, and also for the employees, they always look so tight in that little bubble there, fishbowl. But so congratulations, all you guys. I'm really happy. Are we going to have a ribbon cuttings at some point when we do open it this year, next year? Do we know?
I can answer that. And obviously we're waiting to see what happens. If it's going to be safe for us to get together. We may end up doing some kind of sort of virtual ribbon cutting. Stay tuned on that. But obviously someday we want y'all there to check it all out. Yeah, we're playing it by ear, but definitely want to commemorate it. And that's why we've been trying to do a lot of videos and share on our social media that, to commemorate it when it was perfectly fresh and new. And we hope to keep it that way as long as possible. But yeah, we will do something special for sure.
And one more question. When we do finally open it, do we have all the new technology to disinfect it? Is all that going to be bumped up? Do we have the company that's working with us, our cleaning company, are they spraying it? I mean, is that part of the plan, obviously, at least for a while?
Yes.
Yeah, and I mean, we're already, since people are working in the building, it's already happening. So the high touch surfaces are getting disinfected, I think 3 times a day. And, the bathrooms will be cleaned. There's also going to be floor decals and markings, where you can stand so that people are giving appropriate social distancing. We've got hand sanitizer. Obviously we have the sinks in the bathrooms, but the other piece is when we do reopen, once we start collecting fares again, really the rule is going to be that the only reasons to be inside the transit center building are to, do a transaction, so to make a purchase either with customer service rep or at one of the machines, to get information or to use the restroom. There's not going to be just hanging out because we need to make sure that there's enough space for people who need to get in and out and do their business to do that without being crowded. So that's the plan for when we start. So yeah, we've done, thanks to Mary Gregg, we've done a lot of work to see what that will look like and try to map it all out before we open.
Okay, thank you.
Great.
Mr. Chair?
Congratulations.
Go ahead. Vice Chair Tabor.
Yes, I said it's very nice to have this project behind us. It seems like we've been working on this my entire term on the board. It's really brought this up to modern times. The building screamed 1973 before, so it's good to see it say 2020 now. And just commend the efforts of all, from the drivers up to management, for the effort in keeping service running during this long construction project. So thank you all for that.
Thank you for the comment. Good comment. Anybody else? Go ahead, Chuck. Go ahead, Chuck.
With all the years that I've been associated with MTD, the transit center was a gateway to the city, and I always just kind of hung my head, you know, when I thought about it. And now with that new building, it's something we can really be proud of, and I would think the city of Santa Barbara is a little grateful, maybe real grateful to us for improving that and actually upgrading that part of the city, because as I said, it is the gateway to the city, and when it's seen now, it's something that can be seen, I think, with pride.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay. Okay, well, again, Paula, please. Unmute, please.
I'm sorry.
There you go. That's okay.
I just briefly want to echo what my colleagues have said. It's absolutely beautiful, and thanks to everyone that put so much time and energy. It's going to be gorgeous. I love the roof.
Here, here. I've actually been on the inside, and the pictures don't even do it. It is just so bright and cheerful. It's really, really a great interior.
Great.
For our customers, but also for the people who work there all day long. Great look, yeah. I think I got to tell you, the drivers, in terms of the break room and the bathrooms, triple thumbs up. I mean, unbelievable, great change. So, okay, again, thank you everybody who worked on this project, and congratulations. And we'll look forward to whatever type of opening we can, right, Olivia, virtual or otherwise. Okay, that takes us to item 9. That's the general manager's report. Mr. Estrada.
Yeah, just a few items. Obviously, in this general manager report, I focused quite a bit on a number of solicitations and projects, gave you a little bit of update. We're moving forward with the items that you approved recently, the A&E services contract, what you heard with SoCal Edison for the Charge Ready program, as well as the New Flyer buses. So we're going through the process of getting those contracts signed and all the backup documentation. Another item that was touched on earlier that I included in the general manager's report was that one of the final deliverables for the facilities master plan was a ZEB modeling from Stantec. And they've been working with Mr. Grip, and as you heard with Ms. Blackerby on that. And we plan on bringing a presentation to you in November, most likely the second meeting in November, to show you the results of what they've learned. And I think when you look at Santa Barbara and you look at our particular service area and the blocks that we have for the buses, it's a positive result. I think you'll see a lot of the questions you've had, the Director Sheeler's brought up, I think, over the years will be answered as far as what we can and can't do with the current technology as it exists today out there as it pertains to electric vehicles. We're also moving forward with the fleet renewal project. We still have our diesel fleet, which of course is the bridge to ZEB technology. We need to maintain that and keep it in a state of good repair, and we'll be bringing that to you soon. Also the Cayo Real project, we're in the solicitation phase, so I can't really discuss it much, but we're looking forward to proposals here in October on that. And I'm happy to answer any questions you might have for me.
Questions for Jerry? Bill.
Thank you, Chair. You just mentioned the Cayo Real project, and I'm sure we're all pretty interested in getting the proposals in. When will we know who the submitters who has submitted applications of interest? When will we know that?
The current deadline for solicitations is October 22nd. So probably soon thereafter, we'll meet with the ad hoc committee on Cayo Real to give them an update on where we are.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions for Jerry? Chuck,
I have a couple.
go ahead, Chuck, and I'll come back to Bill.
On the second paragraph, it lists the boarding points for all the routes, and I noticed line 20 isn't on there. Where is the boarding going to be for that line?
I'm sorry, I'm trying to find that one on the report. Yeah, line 20 is currently boarding, I believe, is it boarding, Hillary, is it boarding in the zone currently?
Boarding in the circle.
The circle, okay.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that.
In the circle, Chuck.
Circle.
Oh, okay. Okay, good. And then over on the next page, that RFP, is there going to be special funding for that, or is that just going to be part of our regular budget on the fleet renewal campaign?
We have budgeted for that project, so it's a part of our capital budget at this point.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Bill, you had another question.
Yeah, thank you again. I guess for the first thing, well, was probably just more of a comment, but just to share it with the general manager and the board. Perhaps in 2021, which now doesn't seem that far away, we could revisit our strategic plan. And this last one just has to do with, I should have mentioned it, but I didn't get my unmute in on time with the cash report. The money that we get from the CARES Act, how is that showing up in the documentation that we get on finance and budget? Is it drawn down as needed, and then does it show somewhere in our
Yeah, what we've done so far, there's been one drawdown for half of the projected shortfall for the fourth quarter of last fiscal year, ending June 30th. As the single audit is completed, and we'll be bringing that to the board in November, we'll have the final deficit for last fiscal year. And at that point, based on that figure, we will draw down the remaining amount. And you'll see that flow through the cash report as federal operating assistance.
Okay. All right, thanks.
Other questions? Okay, not seeing any. Takes us to item 10. This is communications and unsolicited correspondence. Jerry, you want to explain this one?
Certainly. We were asked by this entity, this organization, to share this letter with the board, which we wanted to do. So it's an unsolicited solicitation. They're essentially providing information. What we will do is we will add them to our bidders list for ZEB related projects so that they are informed when we're going out to bid. And I have reached out to them, I've been able to contact them directly, but I have left a message and we'll follow up with them.
Great, thank you. Okay, item 11, other business and reports. I have not had any other committees, Matt? Not seeing any? Okay. Takes us to the adjournment. Our next meeting is 2 weeks from today. I believe that's October 20th. And we will have an agenda. I know I've gone over the tentative with Jerry, so we will be meeting 2 weeks from today. So everybody stay safe out there. Have a great time between now and then, and we'll see you all in 2 weeks. Thanks again to staff for everything.
Thanks, everyone.
Motion to adjourn.
There's a motion to adjourn. Second, all those in favor, raise your hand. That's unanimous. We stand adjourned. Thank you, everybody. Goodbye.